And good evening. Tonight, travelers from coast to coast are paying the price for the government shutdown as America's air traffic controllers are forced to work without pay. Hundreds of flights canceled today at dozens of major airports, and a growing list of airlines announcing they're canceling hundreds more each day. Staffing shortages have pushed the FAA to order 4% of flights nationwide canceled today. OK, next Tuesday, watch this, that number grows to 6%, 8% on Thursday, and 1 week from today, 1 in 10 flights could be ordered canceled by the government. It comes as more and more air traffic controllers are calling out sick, on the verge of missing a second paycheck next week. And for the passengers they're charged with keeping safe, the frustration is mounting.
It's a blame culture. That's all I can say. Nobody takes responsibility for anything. So it's a big mess, and we have to deal with it.
The holidays are coming up, and if this continues, this is going to end up being a big problem.
Today, Transportation Secretary Duffy said even if the shutdown ended immediately, it would take time to recover from the staffing shortages as those controllers come back. And his new warning, look at this. Flight cancellations ordered by the FAA could reach 20%. That's 1 in 5 trips if the shutdown presses on. With each passing day, the impasse on Capitol Hill sets a new record. We're now 38 days into the longest shutdown in American history and still counting. Our Maggie Vespa has been talking to frustrated travelers. She leads us off tonight from Chicago O'Hare.
Tonight, government-inflicted travel chaos mounting coast to coast.
So just like everybody else in America, my flight got canceled for tomorrow.
Air traffic control staffing shortages today triggering major delays in Houston, Phoenix, and at Reagan National Airport in Washington, where delays averaged 4 hours. That's on top of the hundreds of flights already canceled after the FAA began reducing airspace because of the government shutdown. 4% of flights cut today. American Airlines says it's canceling 220 flights per day through Monday. United canceling more than 300 flights this weekend alone. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says cuts will ramp up to 10% next week, warning if the shutdown drags on.
If this continues and I have more controllers who decide they can't come to work, we might go to 15% or 20%.
The FAA saying the cancellations are needed to ease the burden on air traffic controllers who are working without pay. Flyers frustrated from Chicago.
How frustrating is this, that we're in this scenario where it's all so unpredictable?
Oh, yeah, it's wicked frustrating. Everybody should just get along. Let's figure it out. These air traffic controllers, my safety is in their hands.
To Philadelphia.
And this is like the worst that I've ever seen.
It's unbelievable and it's embarrassing for our country.
At United Airlines Network Operations Center, staff are figuring out which flights to cancel and how to get passengers rebooked.
I would compare the 188 cancellations that we're currently doing like a mid-sized winter storm.
Mid-sized winter storm.
Mid-sized winter storm. The closer we get to the holidays, obviously the available seats will be less. So I think that that's a little bit more impactful.
Maggie, you feel for all those passengers out there. I think people at home are going to be wondering, how are the airlines deciding which flights are going to cut?
Yeah, it's really interesting, Tom. They're really zeroing in on routes that basically go back and forth several times a day. So, for instance, American Airlines typically has 10 flights between Tampa and Miami. And today they canceled 2 of those, and they only had 8. I'm really seeing this across the board. In the meantime, airlines are stressing if passengers are on these canceled flights, all the affected passengers, they can get compensation for this through kind of multiple means. Number one, they can get rebooked and have all the typical fees for that completely waived. Obviously, this isn't their fault. Or if they want, they can scrap their trip altogether and get a complete refund. They said that applies to all the flights that are impacted by this government shutdown, no matter how long this goes on, Tom.
Yeah, let's hope it doesn't go on too long. All right, Maggie, we appreciate that. Now to the other big headline tonight. More on the government shutdown, day 38, as the Trump administration issues a major reversal on funding the food assistance program for those in need. NBC's Peter Alexander has that report.
Hello, thank you for coming. Tonight, as food distribution centers face another crush of customers in need, the Trump administration says it will comply with a federal court order fully funding food assistance or SNAP benefits for November. Still, it's unclear how soon that money gets to the 42 million Americans who rely on it.
I'm going for bread and eggs, necessary things that
but it's hard.
But on Capitol Hill, the longest federal government shutdown is set to stretch into its 7th week. Republicans blasting Democrats for repeatedly blocking a funding bill that would reopen the government.
This is Trump derangement syndrome. Nothing more, nothing less.
Senate Democrats now say they'll vote to end the shutdown if Republicans pass a 1-year extension of Obamacare subsidies.
Democrats are ready to clear the way to quickly pass a government funding bill that includes health care affordability.
Republicans call that offer a non-starter.
We have a shutdown, as you probably know, because the Democrats have gone, they're crazy.
But days after Democratic election wins, the president acknowledged were largely about affordability.
They lied because they talked about, oh, prices are up. No, prices are down under the Trump administration, and they're down substantially.
Since the president took office, crude oil is down 16% and gas down 6 cents a gallon. But grocery prices overall are up slightly. Staples like ground beef up substantially, 13%. Orange juice up 17%. The president also touting Walmart's Thanksgiving meal deal.
It's 25% less this year than it was last year, and that's true.
But only partially true. It is cheaper, but that Walmart package is also much smaller, with 6 fewer items. Unlike last year, no sweet potatoes, no whipped topping, or pie.
All right, with that, Peter Alexander joins us. Peter, I have a couple questions for you. Let's start with some new reporting you have out of the White House about a high-profile pardon.
That's right, a name you're probably familiar with, Darryl Strawberry, a White House official telling NBC News that the president approved a pardon for Strawberry, a 3-time World Series champion, an 8-time All-Star, familiar for having played with multiple teams, the Mets, the Yankees, and other teams throughout his career. He pleaded guilty, Strawberry did, to tax evasion back in 1995. The official noted that Strawberry has become active in Christian ministry and started a recovery center, Tom, actually, that still operates today. Notably, Strawberry thanked Trump on social media, on Instagram, posted several pictures of the two, said that he got a call from the president who detailed the clemency plan for him just yesterday. One thing that was particularly interesting here is Strawberry is now the 2nd veteran of Trump's old reality TV show, Celebrity Apprentice, after Rod Blagojevich back in February to receive a pardon from the president.
Some good Trump trivia there. Let's go back to the shutdown. We went into your piece highlighting this is day 38. You talk about the calendar leading into Thanksgiving weekend and the holidays right around there. Is there time for these guys to come together and reach a deal?
Well, they would say there's certainly time if they can get it done. Obviously, this stuff doesn't just happen overnight. There is indications. We have now heard from Mike Johnson, the Speaker, that the House is not going to be in session again next week. That means even if the Senate does something, the House isn't there
all of next week
as well.
Wow.
Well, that's the present plan right now. Things can certainly change. Notably, the House, as someone posted earlier today, I think has only been in session for 20 days over the last 4 or 5 months, right? That's the way lawmakers work so often as it relates to their recesses. Now they're dealing with this significant issue. You've seen the impact on flights, on SNAP benefits and beyond. There's a real urgency, and I think they're going to start to feel more and more pressure as the holidays approach.
We hope so. All right, Peter, so great to have you here in studio. We're going to turn now to the latest on that deadly crash of a UPS cargo plane in Louisville. Today, the federal investigators revealing some of what they've learned from the plane's black boxes. Here's Tom Costello.
From a drone and on the ground, NTSB investigators are mapping the scorched debris field from Tuesday's crash and revealing the black box recordings captured a bell going off in the cockpit 37 seconds after the plane began its takeoff roll, lasting until the recording stopped 25 seconds later.
During this time, the crew engaged in efforts to attempt to control the aircraft before the crash.
Among the missing, Megan Washburn, a mother of 2, and John Laux, both worked at the scrap metal business that was hit. The 3 pilots on board also died. Captain Richard Wartenberg, First Officer Lee Truitt, and Captain Dana Diamond.
I made the difficult 3 phone calls to the spouses of our pilots, our colleagues.
UPS Pilot Union President Bob Travis.
They were just wonderful human beings. They were fun to be around. They were happy, go-lucky people. They were funny.
At a vigil here Thursday night, the community gathered to remember those who were lost.
He's like an angel on earth.
The last time you spoke to him?
Probably like 2 weeks ago.
The question, why did the left engine and the pylon attaching it to the wing of the plane break free before the crash?
We don't know at this point in time, is this an airplane-specific issue or is this a fleet problem? We don't know that.
The talk among aviation experts and veteran investigators really is the haunting similarity between this crash on Tuesday and a 1979 crash involving an American Airlines jet. Now, that was a DC-10, the previous model of the MD-11. In that case, also, the engine and the pylon came off the left wing, just like this time. And that was because of a maintenance mistake. The question is whether this MD-11 on Tuesday suffered a similar fate. Same plane, same engine, same pylon. And if so, why? Tom?
An eerie coincidence if it is one. All right, Tom Costello, we thank you. We're also following breaking news tonight. In the case of that 9-year-old California girl missing for nearly a month, authorities arresting Melody Buzzard's mother, but she's not being charged with her disappearance. Our Steve Patterson explains.
Tonight, new video showing the mother in the middle of the maelstrom of her own daughter's mysterious disappearance, now under arrest. Authorities today putting handcuffs on 40-year-old Ashley Buzzard, but on unrelated false imprisonment charges. In a statement, the Santa Barbara Sheriff's Department says detectives learned of a recent incident where Ashley prevented a victim from leaving a location against their will, which constitutes false imprisonment. Adding, although the arrest occurred during the course of the missing person investigation, it is not directly related to Melody's disappearance. Former Police Chief Cedric Alexander is an NBC News law enforcement analyst.
Is the hope that while she's in custody, she will give them something that they can use for this case that they're already investigating?
She is the link to solving this case at this point. So hopefully through investigation and through their questioning of her, they're able to come to some resolve around this.
The arrest comes one day after deputies released new surveillance video showing Ashley with her daughter Melody at a rental car counter during a road trip, both appearing to be wearing wigs. Detectives say the investigation is centered on that road trip in early October. The pair seen in a white Chevy Malibu on October 7th. The rental car's license plate swapped from California to New York during the trip. Melody was last seen on October 9th, spotted near the Utah-Colorado border. The search now spread out over at least 5 different locations in 4 states, while a mother waits behind bars.
All right, Steve Patterson joins us tonight from Los Angeles. So some real developments in this case, Steve. And now authorities are asking the public for help. Explain.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Tom. But the problem is that route means the search area now is sprawling, including at least 5 separate towns spread out over 4 states, from Utah to Arizona, Nevada to California. And the FBI, we know, now involved, scouring gas stations, rest stops, and hotels, looking for anyone with any shred of information, no matter how small, to come forward. Tom?
Okay, Steve Patterson for us tonight. Steve, good to see you. Tonight, the first real taste of winter is on its way, and Arctic blasts expected to send temperatures plunging for much of the country. Millions under frost and freeze alerts, and new video just in as severe storms, look at this, wow, plow through parts of Tennessee, strong rain and hail quickly reducing visibility there. Let's get right to NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns. Bill, walk us through what you know.
Yeah, so first off, that was a tornado watch that is issued in areas of Tennessee. So no tornadoes have been reported, just a few strong thunderstorms. We'll keep an eye on that. As far as this cold outbreak, we're going to call this, December and November, because that's how it's going to feel for everyone. The cold Arctic air is now building. It is going to be diving south. So you may want to know, how are we going to, why? It seems a little early for this. Well, our polar vortex holds all the cold air in place, and it's weaker than normal right now. And this piece right here is breaking off. And that's what's heading our way. So it's a piece of our polar air, and it's going to make its dive through the Hudson Bay, through Canada this weekend, and eventually, by the time we get towards Monday night and Tuesday morning, it makes its way all the way down to the Gulf Coast. That's the unusual part of this. Wind chills are going to be very cold, single digits. So if you haven't gotten the leaves up yet, the snow is going to fly near the lakes. Do that this weekend, because you don't want to be doing it in the middle of this, or even with snow on top. And even on the Gulf Coast, temperatures are going to be down in the 20s and 30s for wind chills. Now, during the day on Monday, it gets a little bit better, but then Tuesday night is just as cold. And that'll be the peak of the cold. Even in central Florida, the wind chill feel-like temperature will be there in the 30s. And as far as snow goes, a lot of people are going to see their first snowflakes. The areas that will actually be shoveling and having the plow snow is going to be off of Lake Michigan, typical Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. Northern New York's going to get it, northern Vermont, and even areas as far as south, Tom, down towards Asheville and Boone. The mountains in North Carolina are going to get snow, too.
First snowfall there in November. All right, Bill, we thank you. We're back in a moment with the accidental mix-up turning deadly. Imagine this, a house cleaner killed after trying to enter the wrong home. Is the shooter protected under the law? We're going to break this down. And the head coach of the Miami Heat speaking out for the first time after a massive fire destroyed his home. What he's saying tonight. And the wild police pursuit caught on camera a driver, get this, in a stolen ambulance, leading officers on a chase through Chicago. How it came to a dramatic end. That's next. We're back now with a deadly shooting in Indiana. A housekeeper shot through a door and killed after police say she made the mistake of going to the wrong house. Aaron McLaughlin on why the shooter may not be charged.
Tonight, outside Indianapolis, the family of Maria Florina Rios Perez in tears after the 32-year-old house cleaner from Guatemala was shot and killed Wednesday morning while attempting to enter what police say was a mistaken address. Perez's husband, Mauricio, who cleaned houses with her, was by her side when it happened.
No es fácil.
It's not easy, he says. At the moment, seeing my wife in my arms, already lifeless, covered in blood, I felt like they tore everything from me. Video shows the bullet hole still visible in the front door of the suburban home. Police say officers responded to a 911 call at 6:49 a.m., reporting a possible residential entry in progress. Ken Eastwood is the county prosecutor overseeing the case.
They were there as part of a contract to clean the home. They were just at the wrong home.
Is the homeowner claiming self-defense?
Yes.
The shooter's name currently being withheld. Tonight, Eastwood tells NBC News criminal charges are being considered. At issue, Indiana's Stand Your Ground law covering self-defense if a person has reasonable belief of being threatened with imminent serious bodily harm. How do you determine what's reasonable and what's not?
In any type of self-defense claim, it's a difficult standard to understand given how we are in our world today on what's reasonable.
The family she leaves behind, including her 4 children, now demanding justice, wondering how a simple misunderstanding could have cost Perez her life.
All right, terrible incident. Aaron joins us live in studio. So, Aaron, did the prosecutor give you any sense of where this case is headed?
Well, the prosecutor told me he still needs to go through all of the evidence. In fact, 25 minutes prior to the interview, the final report had landed on his desk. He said he had a lot of video evidence to go to. There were taped statements from both the shooter and his wife. He said that both of them are cooperating with the investigation. There's police body camera footage that he needs to review. Also, he said that there is Ring camera footage captured from the house across the street. He said he wasn't sure of the quality of that footage. All of that he needs to work through before determining next steps.
Okay, Aaron McLaughlin first. Aaron, thank you. I'm sure you have a lot of questions about this story. We do too, so we want to bring in NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos. Danny, thanks so much for joining us. Indiana has strict stand your ground laws. So walk us through the legal merit here and what it all means.
Well, interestingly enough, this is less a stand your ground law, which has to do with when people walk out into the world and whether or not they have this force bubble of the ability to use violence or deadly force to defend themselves. It actually goes back to something called Castle Doctrine, which Indiana does base its stand your ground law on. So really, Castle Doctrine is based on the idea that a person's home is their castle. And here's the key, Tom. It all comes down to one word, and that word is reasonable. Under Indiana law, a person is privileged to use deadly force to prevent someone from entering their home unlawfully if their belief that the use of force is reasonable. So key, the fact that, as Aaron pointed out, there are Ring cameras. They may have captured this incident. So the key is going to be factors like, did a man and a woman knock on the door with a broom and a mop and cleaning supplies? And did they knock on the door and ring the doorbell? Because burglars typically don't ring the doorbell. They might to see who's home. But other questions are going to be what kinds of alerts or what kinds of warnings were given. Those are all going to factor in to one fundamental analysis. Was this use of force reasonable?
What are you thinking from the facts that we have so far? And again, we don't know if they were trying to get in, they had the key, it wasn't working. Were there earphones in play? Could she not hear? Did the homeowner or the shooter even try to communicate? I mean, there's so many unknowns here. Where do you think this case goes? And I know it's very hard with the information we have.
Exactly, Tom. And every factor that you just listed is something the prosecutor is going to look at. I think one of the key factors is going to be what kind of warning was given. Now, maybe there might have been a language barrier, but how much warning was given? Obviously, I mean, if there was a 911 call and they were trying to get in, but if the key didn't work, they weren't getting in without the key. And presumably, and I know I'm jumping ahead here, but presumably they weren't going to break a window to get in. The key is what was happening at the moment the homeowner decided to take a gun in his hand and use deadly force. That is the key inquiry. And fortunately for the prosecution in today's era, even if there isn't a Ring camera on their home, there may be several others in the neighborhood. And so you may get a clear answer that will guide the prosecution as to whether or not this was a valid use of force in self-defense.
You know, it looks like there's a window right next to the door there, which is sort of interesting, but you also know that the shooter apparently called 911 as well. So there's like there's a lot at play here. As the prosecutors sort of choose this one over to figure out if he's going to charge or not charge, it sounds like from what you're telling us, because of Indiana the law, the bar is going to be pretty high to charge here.
It could be. I mean, Indiana does use the magic word reasonable, and it's not entirely clear whether the reasonableness is a subjective one. In other words, is it just a matter of whether or not the person, the homeowner himself, thought that he was in danger? Well, no. Reasonableness is an objective test. In other words, reasonableness is not satisfied by me, myself. I believed I was in danger, no matter what any other people may think looking at this. Reasonableness is a test of what everybody else, what the general public, what everyone would think if they were confronted with the same facts. And that may be a problem for this homeowner, if there are facts like they knocked on the door, they rang the doorbell, they tried a key that didn't work. So it sounds like we all know. I mean, you know, I live in an apartment building. People have tried to use the wrong key. I've done it, Tom. I'm guilty of doing it on other apartments. I'm not paying attention. I get out of the elevator, go to the wrong door. It's a sound that you recognize. And you pointed out a good thing. Did they look out the window? Should they have looked out the window? Did they announce who they were? Did they say, go away? And here's the key for me. Were they knocking on the door with a mop, a broom, cleaning supplies? And are those the kinds of things the homeowner could have seen? These are all common sense things that the prosecution is going to look at to see whether or not the use of force was, and this is the magic word, reasonable.
Yeah. All right. Danny Savalas for us. Danny, great to have you on the show to break this down. We appreciate it. Coming up, the U.S. carrying out new deadly strikes on suspected drug boats. Our Richard Engel is live in Colombia tonight with the latest on those attacks. And the shocking scene in Florida, a SWAT team arresting a man after he came crashing through the ceiling. We'll show you more of that video. We're back now with reporting on a new U.S. military strike in the Caribbean. The target, another boat allegedly carrying drugs to the U.S. That, according to the Pentagon. Our Richard Engel is in the region in Colombia tonight, speaking with the country's defense minister about the strikes.
The U.S. military carried out another lethal attack on a boat in the Caribbean carrying drugs to the U.S., the Pentagon said, providing no evidence and few details. So far, President Trump has authorized nearly 20 attacks on boats and an improvised submarine.
Every time you see that happen, you're saving 25,000 American lives.
In addition, he's deployed more than 10,000 troops, warships, drones, and fighter jets to the region, all while fiercely criticizing Venezuela and also Colombia.
Colombia is a drug den. It's a drug den, and it has been for a long time.
President Trump's lethal strikes and military buildup are being felt all across Latin America. He's even promised to cut all military and financial support for Colombia, where troops like these have long been considered among the U.S.'s closest and most effective allies in the war on drugs. Pedro Sanchez is Colombia's defense minister. I asked him if he agrees with President Trump's assessment that the boats are actually carrying drugs.
From the news that we analyze, we agree that those are boats carrying drugs.
That's your assessment as well, that they're carrying drugs?
Yes.
All right, Richard Engel joins us tonight live from Bogota, Colombia. Richard, great to have you there in the region for us. I'm curious, I know you've been talking to both defense ministers, but also people there throughout Colombia. Is there a sense that President Trump wants to have a military strike on land in that region somewhere, maybe Venezuela, maybe Colombia?
So, Tom, we've been speaking to a lot of people, diplomats, former government officials, people on the street, the defense minister, and there is absolutely a sense that it is perhaps just a matter of time before President Trump orders some sort of ground strike in Venezuela against the cartels, against drug manufacturing operations, that is expected, that you don't bring this much firepower to the region
without the intention of using it. It could be just a threat to try and pressure the Maduro government, but that there is some expectation that in the coming weeks, perhaps in the coming months, there might be some sort of surgical strikes in order to pressure Maduro's inner circle to turn on him, to collect the $50 million reward. And here in Colombia, they're worried that they're going to be tarred with the same brush. They don't want to be associated with Maduro. They don't want to be associated with any kind of narco trafficking. They already experienced that in the 80s. They experienced it in the early 90s, and they don't want to go back to those very dark days. So there is a sense or an expectation that there will be some sort of military action, just not directed at Colombia, but next door in Venezuela.
Richard, I do want to ask you, and I don't know if we know the answer to this yet because it's so early, but do we know if these strikes on these alleged drug boats, have they slowed the drug trade at all in the region or into the U.S., or is it still early to figure that question out?
They have changed the drug routes because sending the drugs through the Caribbean is only one possible route, but you can cross the border with Venezuela, you can go to the south through Ecuador, you can go to Peru. Colombia is a very large country, Venezuela is a very large country. These borders are generally quite porous and open. In some cases, it's just dense jungle. So by carrying out strikes in one area, you're forcing the cartels and the different gangs that work with them to redirect their operations. So the flow of drugs is still continuing, but according to officials who monitor this closely, the strikes are forcing these organizations to change their routes and to change their patterns.
Okay, Richard Engel for us tonight. Richard, we thank you. Now to Top Stories newsfeed. Cornell University reaching a deal with the Trump administration to restore hundreds of millions of dollars worth of research funds. The university says it plans to pay the government $30 million over 3 years and invest another $30 million in research aimed at strengthening U.S. agriculture. The Trump administration withheld funding from Cornell after accusing it of committing civil rights violations, which the school denies. In Chicago today, a driver in a stolen ambulance leading police on a wild chase. You can see the vehicle cruising dangerously through the streets. The chase goes for several miles before the suspect slams into a car. He hops out and tries to escape, but he's quickly swarmed by more than a dozen officers and taken into custody. And after hours of hiding in an attic from a SWAT team in Florida, a burglary suspect's escape plan came crashing down. New body cam video shows the man dangling from the ceiling before falling right into the officer's arms. Officials say he bought lumber from a store while using a stolen truck. He's now facing multiple charges. And after more than 200 years, the Farmer's Almanac is officially folding. It says next year's edition is going to be its last. The publication, best known for its weather predictions and planting tips, but it says it's shutting down because of financial reasons. To be clear, the old Farmer's Almanac is a completely different and older publication. That one is still going strong. Okay, so the old one's surviving. In Florida tonight, the head coach of the Miami Heat, Eric Spoelstra, speaking out for the first time since his home burned down. You remember we brought you these images yesterday. Video from that night showing massive flames engulfing the house, leaving little behind except for charred rubble. Here's some of what he had to say with his kids by his side.
As you can see, I have my kids up here right now, so things in the house, those things can be replaced. And if they can't be replaced, what does it really matter? You know, this is really what matters.
I want to bring in NBC's Jesse Kurz, who's at the Miami Heat Stadium tonight for us. Jesse, walk our viewers through the explanation here. Did Spo basically say what caused this fire?
He did not get into that, Tom. He made clear that his kids weren't in the house at the time, his dog wasn't in the house at the time, and everyone is okay, which is the key in all of this. And the fire department still has not put out any official cause for that fire. We're outside of the arena right now. You can see fans starting to gather. The Heat are about to be playing the Hornets from Charlotte here. Not getting that people are holding up banners or anything like that in support of Coach Spoelstra in that way, perhaps. But he did make a point of saying that the community has been with him. Here's part of what he said a short time ago.
I'm appreciative for staying on the routine. The kids wanted to come to the game tonight, so I figured if they want to come to the game, then I better work the game. We're just really grateful to be here and have a great night like this. The NBA is amazing.
And he even made a point of saying, Tom, that he had been asked if he wanted to be at the game, if he needed some time off, and he wanted that routine. And so he is going to be coaching the Heat tonight.
Did you get tickets to the game, Jesse?
We're working on it, Tom. We're working on it. Hoping to be in there to see it in action.
Tell people you're on Top Story. Maybe they'll feel sympathy for you. Give you some tickets. All right, Jesse Kirschford, we thank you for that.
To the sidelines.
Thanks so much for watching Top Story. I'm Tom Llamas in New York. Stay right there. More news on the way. We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.